Welcome to the Spark Podcast, hosted by Dynamic Lifecycle Innovations, where cutting-edge solutions meet effortless experience and maximum returns. Today, we are joined by Josh Humm. Now let's get started.
Hi, and welcome to this session of the Dynamic Spark Podcast. I'm your host for today, Caitlin Fierstead. On the Spark Podcast, we really aim to help organizations learn how to get the most value out of their IT and lifecycle programs. Today, we're really excited to be diving in specifically around data centers and sustainability, the process of retiring or refreshing your assets, and how sustainability plays a part in that. So today, we have with us Josh Humm. He is our data center program manager here at Dynamic. Welcome, Josh. Thank you for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Okay, so getting started, Josh, just to teach people a little bit if they don't know, what does decommissioning or retiring assets and that whole process look like for data centers currently?
Yeah, so when data centers get to the point where they're going to either upgrade their hardware, migrate from one data center to another, or full out decommission, there's a lot of moving pieces and parts that need to be taken care of, right? So from the cooling units, mostly cooling, the power generation, and then down to the cabling, the racks, and the servers and networking equipment, the switches themselves. So at the end of that process, as you know, say what we're talking about decommissioning, companies will come in and they're going to de-energize, decable, de-rack, and then they're going to inventory, serialize, track, and manage all those assets to ensure they go to a proper endpoint, right? So companies like ITAD companies come in and they'll do all those processes, then they'll package them up and then send them back to the processing facilities to complete the journey.
So it seems like in the past, it's been a lot of, take out the material and recycle it. So how has the industry, especially surrounding data centers, really evolved moving forward into the future with what they do in terms of processing that equipment?
There's a lot of attention around the resources that data centers are utilizing. Water, power, these are all just resources in general, land. There's a lot of focus on everything that they take. And this is a great focus area to look at what they can give back to the world and the infrastructure around IT. Yeah. So as these assets come out of this process, as opposed to just recycling them because you don't want to think about it anymore, they know it's being taken care of. I think these data centers and these enterprise owners of data center equipment are really looking at, all right, what can we do to ensure that they're really, making a positive impact on the sustainability of this. So reuse before all else, really looking to ensure that we're finding certified, dedicated channels and professionals to take care of the remarketing after refurbishment and data destruction and all that stuff to really ensure that we're reusing all these components and equipment, which a lot of times right after a refresh or an upgrade, there's still plenty of life left in this equipment. They are using it to be repurposed back into the world and the infrastructure, thereby offsetting all of the mineral exploration and getting all of those components needed to rebuild this stuff and start fresh again.
Yeah. And I mean, you hit on so many things in terms of energy, water, everything that goes into really making a data center function. But then also when you remove it, there's a lot to think about. So when you're thinking about specifically the hardware included, right, all of the IT equipment, and you mentioned the resale or reuse, are those the only sustainability wins, or where are all those sustainability hidden wins for processing that material coming out?
So I was part of a panel just recently speaking to wonderful professionals from a lot of different hyperscalers and such. And really what we were looking at is all those rare earth elements or minerals that come out of this process that are needed, that we're mining for all over the world and creating these new product. We'll look at hard drives in particular. There's a lot of resources utilized to make those devices. The older practice of just shredding them because you know that when you smash that, it's done. You don't have to worry about the data. Really causes a big demand for having to create new product. Even though you can extract a lot of that, all of the resources that go into repurposing that into a new product is really substantial. So understanding that there is data security certifications and specialists out there that can wipe to forensic levels to make sure that there is proof that there is absolutely no data left on there, giving us the opportunity to repurpose that and resell that into infrastructure markets again, really is a true sustainability effort that's going to give a lot of value back to the whole industry versus, just taking the easy road and destroying the hard drives.
So thinking about, everything that goes into the processing and knowing that there's reuse and resale, but then there's also the physical destruction, but thinking about really the labor and unfortunately the negative impacts to the earth when we are just physically destroying, because what that requires for rebuilding. Do you ever work with organizations that they prefer the physical destruction and maybe why they prefer that physical destruction? And are there conversations of trying to get them to reuse or be able to resell their material for sustainability reasons?
Yeah, so when you think about really large organizations where maybe the tangible return on investment is less important and more sweeping regulation to ensure complete data security through total destruction, there's several examples of those kind of organizations out there that we work with. One of them was a national healthcare. They have their own process to remove hard drives prior to sending us their enterprise gear, and they did that for years. Every once in a while, we would get some of their hard drives through anyway. Per our certification, we want to give them back to them, but we can't transport data out of our facilities. So we have to go ahead and wipe those drives and then provide a certificate of data destruction to ensure they know that there's absolutely no data left on there. Forensically, you cannot pull a chip off and get any data out of these things, right? So, and kind of gave them that comfort, that proof of concept that we can take care of their data. And for the sustainability sake, they're not destroying, hard drives just to have to be rebuilt by somebody else later. We can go ahead and put those back into the world again through remarketing, and then ultimately had them entrust us to do that process for them as well, knowing that because of our data certifications and the kinds of data certifications that ITAC companies utilize, they can be entrusted to handle their data.
Okay, fantastic. And it's great. I mean, you talk about the certifications, just being able to provide that comfort, that trust that it's going to be taken care of, even if everybody makes mistakes. But if an organization makes mistakes and they have that process on their end to wipe it beforehand and it gets here, or probably to most vendors, if they are certified, that it's getting wiped no matter what. So I think that trust is really important for any organization too.
Yeah, certifications are absolutely the way to ensure that you're getting that level of service. The environmental ones like R2 and E-Stewards, ensuring everything is tested to minimum, key function testing to ensure that it's not going anywhere that it shouldn't, as a broken unit. Nothing goes into a landfill. Everything is really handled to the highest level of compliance all the way through the process. Those are really good assurances for companies that, hey, if my provider, my partner has these certifications, my materials are going to be taken care of.
So kind of on the certification side, but just the trust side more specifically, how do organizations know if they're working with an ITAD vendor that they really truly have the focus of sustainability, or are they just using buzzwords of, yes, we're sustainable with our processes? How can you differentiate the, true sustainable ITAD vendors versus ones that aren't maybe true to that, genuine to that through and through?
Yeah, you're looking for total visibility, right? So go in and visit your ITAD provider, walk through the facility, see what they're doing with the materials. There's a lot of reporting on ways to take a look at how they're being tested, how they're being remarketed. If they're only selling things in bulk lots through wholesale channels, it's a decent way to, to move the materials. But really finding the best next life is really diving into a component level on all of this hardware and really ensuring that, just because something on its own isn't going to be remarkable, pairing it up with other items and batching things and building to concepts for the needs of customers ensures everything gets an opportunity to have a next best life.
Off of that too, I imagine, when you think of a laptop or desktop, a phone, there's probably fewer parts than what is involved in a data center takeout for retiring equipment. So how does that look in terms of all the components that are available for resale potentially then, if you can dive in on that at all?
Yeah. So servers in particular, what a commodity rich piece of equipment. So as they come in, we find that often the individual components are worth more than the whole altogether. So it depends month by month. And that's really another way to look at your ITAD provider is what are they doing to stay on the cutting edge of being able to remarket these components versus whole units? Honestly, the swings in the market can include times where a whole built unit is most valuable to the customer, or other times the shortages of memory sticks out in the world, hard drives, processors, graphics cards, having those items broken down and then yet still tied back to the customer so they get a share of the value out of that is the best way to really find that good home for all those components. Because to your point, there is a tremendous amount of components that come out of a data center, out of a rack. I mean, when you look at the amount of stacking all of these, high density racks together and all of the equipment that's tied in there, it's a lot, right? So you need somebody who not only has all the certification, but has the capacity and the personnel to be able to handle all that material and really, treat everything as an individualized value commodity back for your program.
Yeah. And thinking of that too, and just so many different parts that are included, you alluded to it a little bit earlier, is just what goes into truly remaking all of these parts if they were destroyed versus being able to be reused. I don't know if you want to touch on that a little bit of just what truly goes into, if it is physically destroyed, recreating all of that.
Yeah, for sure. So if, even as a part of like dynamics process where we're looking and evaluating through equipment, we have failures. There's items that cannot be remarketed, for whatever reason, and they go through our recycling process. Any recycling company, electronics recycling company that goes through these commodities breaks it down, and it keeps breaking down until you can get to the raw elements, right? So, you go through a shredding operation where, say, we'll just use a printer, for example, it goes into the shredder. That goes in, 20, 30 commodities come out of that: plastic, high grade board, low grade board, the copper wire, the aluminum, copper heat sinks. All of these different things can come out of steel, plastic, different grades of plastic. There's all of these things that come out. Everything needs to go through another process and another process and another process before it becomes something again. So, elements need to be smelted down. Everything needs to be refined. That is a tremendous amount of resources. It's trucking, it's trains, it's all the stuff that moves the materials around and the industrial processes that it takes to actually recreate the stuff. Whereas if you can wipe it, you can retest it, you can remarket it. It's only a couple of steps. Nothing has to be rebuilt in that manner. And then it just gets to continue on being a part of the infrastructure of all of our IT stuff in the world.
Yeah. Even as you were explaining it, I was like, okay, step 1, step 2, step 3. Okay, now we're on step 15, 16, 17 on the recycling side, which is still, better than throwing it away somewhere.
Right.
But so that's still a fantastic option if it's not able to be resold. But then you describe the resale side of it and it's like, oh, okay, 3 to 4 steps. Great. Love it.
Yeah.
So just the labor, time is so precious. And so the time and everything that goes into that is just eye-opening how much of a difference it is between the two of them even.
Yeah, no, that's exactly the point. When I was a part of that panel not too long ago, we were talking about like rare earth magnets. And just the amount of labor that goes into removing those, and they kind of become, the process breaks them down before they can be rebuilt. And honestly, just reusing it with, first and foremost, like, oh yeah, we can just do that. That's way easier for everybody.
So another question too, we talked a lot about the sustainability side of things and kind of moving into how everything works, back to what we talked about at the beginning. If I'm an IT manager on the IT team at an organization, if I'm thinking about retiring or refreshing laptops, desktops, it probably looks quite different than data centers. And so for people out there maybe who haven't gone through that yet, because it is still growing and how maybe large their data center is and what all needs to be on that data center or utilized through that. So can you give an idea, if you've worked with large customers or any type of customer in the past, what does that planning process look like in order to have a successful decommissioning job for data centers?
Yeah, there's a lot that goes into it, right? So you physically have users still utilizing the data center. So migrating people out of whatever data center that you're going to be taking the equipment out of, de-energizing. You still have to control the HVAC because you have all the elements in that environment yet. So really it's proper planning and it's coordination with partners who can come in and hit all those steps in a row as you need them, right? So de-energize, de-rack, decable, get all the hardware infrastructure out of there so the rest of the teams can come in and pull down the HVAC, the power generation, whatever you need to have done to that space. If there's anything that needs to be put into a customer's asset management system, having a coordination where you can track those assets into that environment as well to provide tracking from where the assets are at and where they're going, all of those things, right? There's a lot of pieces to be given attention to. So yeah, it's a complicated endeavor, mostly because there's so many moving pieces and a lot of these data centers are enormous and they have a tremendous amount of assets and people and resources that are allocated towards them. So just planning with partners who know what they're doing and are used to working in this environment.
Thank you for going over that. I appreciate that. It's so different. It's evolving, of course. So it's really just great to hear you talk through all this and that specifically. Cool. Okay, I'm looking over my questions here, and we're kind of getting to the end, but I just want to see too, because we've talked about sustainability, we talked about the processing, we've talked about the importance of just having the trust with the vendor certifications too, and how that plays into it. Anything else that you want to cover just in terms of being helpful for people out there who are going through and working through potential data center decommissioning and looking at the sustainability impacts that they could really take from this session and put into their roles and their programs?
Yeah. So I know a lot of organizations look at the decommissioning process as a cost center, something that they just have to do. A lot of attention is given to upgrades and builds and commissionings and all that stuff, but decommissioning is a part of the life cycle of every single one of these assets and organizations as they go through this process. It does not have to be a cost center. It can be something that you can at least mitigate the expenses out of and even potentially make it a small credit opportunity for your organization if you follow the best practices of sustainable asset management, right? So reuse at all costs. Reuse. Find a partner that is fully certified, has all the environmental standards, the data security standards, ITAR for the government entities. When a lot of organizations work with the government have sensitive things that they have to worry about. Find a partner that has that. They have experience. They have good people that are working on this, and let them do what they do best. Remarket, repurpose, find next best homes for all of this equipment. It'll not only help provide cost mitigation for your program, it'll be easy for you because it can come in and take care of a lot of the things you need done within your data centers. And then ultimately, it's the best sustainability practice you can have because it's creating an environment where you don't have to remanufacture all these things. They get to continue living on and have a next best life for all their electronics. And then you get to reap the benefit of the sustainability efforts that come from that. The offsets of remarketing an asset versus recycling is tremendous. And finding a partner that can help report that to you and give that information back and use it as something that you get to hang your hat on and be proud of is, hey, we offset all of these assets that had to be repurposed or repurchased or whatever, and you found a best new life for them instead, and this is the impact that you got out of that. So there's a lot of good things you can do with that. Reuse above all else is step one.
Fantastic. Well, thank you so much for everything that you've shared with us, and just really appreciate your focus on data centers and providing so much education. I know you've spoken on panels and you connect with different groups. And so really appreciate you coming on the podcast to share with us as well and to everybody watching. So Josh, thank you so much for coming today.
Thank you, Caitlin. Always a pleasure.
Wonderful. Well, thank you all. And we'll see you next time at the Spark Podcast.